This is a sports catastrophe production.
Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe Birthday Boy. And the birthday boy for today, April the 25th, is a legend with the San Antonio Spurs, a power forward slash center, spending all 19 years with the Spurs, which is a rarity nowadays. You spend all your career, like 15 plus years, with one team. He was part of the reason why the Spurs were decent in the 2000s and 2010s. He was inducted to the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2020. NBA Rookie of the Year, and basically an all-around good guy because he's created a foundation to raise health awareness and education youth sports programs. His name is Tim Duncan, who's now 48 years old. So he was born and raised in St. Croix, one of the U.S. Virgin Islands. He was son of immigrants from Anguilla. He has two older sisters and an older brother. His sister Tricia swam for the U.S. Virgin Islands at the 1988 Summer Olympics in Seoul. And Duncan excelled at swimming and all of that. It looked like he was going to be part of the 92 Olympic Games as a member of the U.S. team. However, in 1989, Hurricane Hugo destroyed St. Croix's only Olympic-sized swimming pool, so Duncan would have to swim in the ocean instead. But unfortunately, he had a fear of sharks, so he basically lost enthusiasm for the sport. It's weird how, he got into basketball in the first place because he couldn't be a swimmer because of Hurricane Hugo. Anyway, his mother would die of breast cancer the day before his 14th birthday and made Duncan and his sisters promise that they would graduate from college. Duncan got into basketball. He was extremely awkward. However, he picked up everything by his senior. The Wake Forest basketball coach was interested in Duncan because he technically was in a pickup game with Alonzo Mourning and drew him to a tie. So, anyway, Duncan actually did not give a good first impression to the head coach that he was just staring blankly at Odom for most of the conversation, but because it was just Duncan's demeanor and he was a quick learner, he allowed it to it. So Wake Forest stole Tim Duncan away from the University of Hartford, Delaware, or Providence College. Wake Forest had a lot to go for. It was the 93 season that saw Wake Forest's North Carolina rivals, the Tar Heels, win the championship. Wake Forest got to the Sweet 16 but lost Ronnie Rogers to the draft. So in 93-94, he was considered. He was going to be a redshirt, meaning that he would practice with the team. He wouldn't play for Wake Forest. He would just but he would have an extra year of eligibility. However, his when Coach Odom's center actually violated NCAA rules and transferred to Michigan, he had no choice but to play Duncan. All that. Duncan struggled with early problems, but he progressed and helped Wake Forest win 20 games. He had a simple move, low post moves, mid-range bank shots, and tough defense. He worked towards a degree in psychology and took classes in anthropology and Chinese literature even. As a sophomore, he helped Wake Forest get to the ACC title game against North Carolina, and they won the game. So, based on winning the ACC tournament, they were poised to get into the NCAA tournament, which they did. They got to the Sweet 16, but lost to Oklahoma State in Big Country Brian Reeves. Duncan did pretty well. He put up 3.98 blocks per game, third most in NCAA history. Never mind what he did there. So anyway, in 95-96, Childress graduated and went to the NBA, so Duncan would be the team that led him through. Wake Forest would be the ACC champs and get to the Sweet 16 again. Rumors were circulating that he would give up his senior season and play in the NBA, but because of his promise to his mom, he had to go through with it. So anyway, he did all that. They lost to Stanford in the NCAA tournament, but he did pretty well, 20.8 points per game as a sophomore. As a senior, and was named Naismith College Player of the Year. So he looked pretty impressive. He became the all-time rebounder in NCAA history in the post-1973 era, although he passed by Kenneth Reed, the Manimal. He did pretty well for himself. He got into the 97 NBA draft. San Antonio got the #1 pick, and that's why he is it. So Duncan would be paired with David Robinson, another tall player. That was their best player. All that. So anyway, Duncan and Robinson were good for the reboundings and all that. Duncan got voted into the All-Star game by coaches. He played all 82 games in his rookie campaign, 21 points per game, 11.9 rebounds. I was named NBA Rookie of the Year, no doubt about it. He helped the Spurs get to the 98 playoffs as the 5 seed. The Spurs did lose in the second round to the Jazz. To the lockout during 99 season, the Spurs were 6-8. However, Duncan Robinson would help, and the Spurs went on a 31-5 run. All of that. The Spurs would take care of the Timberwolves, Blazers, Lakers, and the Knicks to win the NBA title in 1999. Duncan was named MVP, Finals MVP, because of a strong 31.9 rebounds showing in Game 5. He cemented a reputation by 2000, getting to the All-NBA and All-Defense first team. Unfortunately, his meniscus got injured and he couldn't play in the postseason, and the Spurs lost the first round to the Suns. Duncan was healthier in 2001 and got the Spurs to the NBA semis, or the conference finals, if you will, but lost to the Lakers in 4 straight. So anyway, Duncan would improve statistically in the 2002 season and was named MVP, making him the second Spur ever to do so after David Robinson. In the 2002 playoffs, the Spurs were outmatched by the Lakers and all that. Well, Duncan did well, getting his second straight MVP award and all that. The Spurs won 60 games and were the top team in the Western Conference. Duncan would play well against Robert Horry. Closest in styles, Duncan put up 37 points and 16 rebounds in Game 6 and all that. The Spurs got to the final, and in 6 games they took care of the Nets. Duncan was named MVP of the finals again and almost got a quadruple double, meaning that there were five categories in the NBA: points, assists, rebounds, steals, and blocks. And if you get double digits in 3 of them, that's a triple double. So he almost had 4 of them. Duncan was named Co-Sportsman of the Year by Sports Illustrated alongside David Robinson, who retired. Duncan would sign a 7-year, $122 million contract with the Spurs, and Duncan had to be the team leader. They went to the conference semis final against the Lakers, and Duncan thought that he won Game 5 against them with a shot with 0.4 seconds, but that was when Derek Fisher somehow had enough time to loft up a shot to beat the buzzer. The Spurs would lose Game 6. Duncan and the Spurs looked pretty impressive. They were the second seed in the Western Conference with 59 wins. They took out the Nuggets in 5 and took on the Spurs and the Sonics in 6. So they would face Phoenix. And the Spurs beat the Suns in 5 games to go to the NBA Finals against the Pistons, knowing Ben Wallace was going to be there and the Pistons were trying to repeat. The series went to Game 7, and Tim Duncan was the hero, putting up 25 points and 11 rebounds. And no question about it, Duncan was named Finals MVP, making him the 4th player to get 3 of those titles, alongside MJ, Shaq, and Magic. Fortunately, Duncan would suffer from plantar fasciitis, and his output just got stunned. He came back strong in the NBA playoffs against Dallas. All that. Duncan could not do well in Game 7 in overtime against Dallas, and that was why they lost. Duncan and the Spurs weren't deterred in 2007. They took care of the Nuggets, Suns, and Jazz all the way to the NBA Finals against the Cavs and against LeBron. The Spurs easily won, giving Duncan his fourth NBA title. And no, he did not win the Finals MVP, which was unusual. But, Duncan said that he played subpar and didn't get a lot of people votes for that. But then playoff disappointments would come shooting down on the Spurs. Duncan helped the Spurs get to the conference finals in 2008, but lost to the Lakers. A lot of people thought 2009 was going to be the Spurs year because, they won the titles in 03, 05, 07. That's 09. But they lost in the first round to the Dallas Mavericks. The Spurs for the 7th seed in 2010, losing to Phoenix in the second round. Spurs were 29-4 after 33 games. And they looked pretty impressive. Despite winning 61 games and being the best team in the West, they somehow got blown out by the 8th seed Memphis Grizzlies in 6 games. 2012, they were the 1 seed again, but lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder in the conference finals. In 2013, the Spurs took care of the Lakers, Warriors, and Grizzlies in the Western Conference to go to the NBA Finals against the Miami Heat. It was a tight series, and the Spurs looked like they were going to win the 2013 title, being up late in Game 6. However, that was when Ray Allen had that clutch three-pointer to tie the game and force overtime, which the Spurs lost. And then the Spurs lost Game 7. Very disappointing and all that. Despite the fact that that was also the year that Duncan got his 23,600 points to break George Grumman's record for most points by a Spur in a Spurs uniform. However, in 2014, the Spurs got on a roll, 62 wins. They had a tough time with Dallas, only winning 7 games. Then they took care of Portland and Oklahoma City to make it to the finals against Miami. But this time, the Spurs were ready, and they won in 5 games. He could have had another Finals MVP, but he lost it to Kawhi Leonard. So he had 5 championship titles. He would later decide to retire on July 11, 2016, after 19 years with the San Antonio Spurs. And even though that the Spurs were looking pretty good, they were the 2 seed in 2016, but lost to Oklahoma City. So anyway, Duncan's number 21 was retired in December 2016, making him the 8th Spur to do so. So anyway, Tim Duncan was an icon, being a power forward / center and getting to the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2020, and just being a good player and all that. Duncan was an assistant coach with the Spurs for a season. So in his career with the Spurs from 97 to 2016, he played 1,392 games, 19 points per game, 10.8 rebounds. In the playoffs, he put up 251 playoff games with a 20.6 points per game and 5 titles, 99, 03, 05, 07, and 14, winning 3 NBA Finals MVPs. Duncan married someone for 12 years, having 2 children with her until their divorce, and then he and his girlfriend had a kid. He did the Tim Duncan Foundation to fund programs of health awareness and research youth sports in San Antonio, Winston-Salem, that being North Carolina, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Okay. He says his 3 most important values are dedication, teamwork, and camaraderie. So anyway, he was part of the Virgin Islands Medal of Honor and all that. Duncan actually makes Dungeons and Dragons, which is weird. All that. So Tim Duncan is an icon for the San Antonio Spurs, and you can't beat that. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond, a dude.